Երաշնոր սրբազան հայր, պարոն դեսպան, սիրելի ներկաներ, ասում են, որ ամեն մեկ պատկեր 1000 խոսք արժե, բայց ինչ վերաբերում է մեր արվեստի մեծագույն տիտանին, Martiros Saryanին, ամեն մեկ պատկեր ոչ թե 1000, ոչ թե 10,000, այլ 1 միլիոն բառ արժե։ Երկար չպետք է ուզեմ խոսել, հանուն առաջնորդ սրբազան հոր, ուզեմ բարի գալուստ մաղթել բոլորիդ և հրավիրել տիկին Sophie Saryanին, որ Martiros Saryani հորնիկն է և Martiros Saryani տուն թանգարանի curator, հայերենով ինչպես պիտի ասենք, ֆոնդապա և այն, որպեսզի մեզ ներկայացնի նյութը և բացատրություններ Martiros Saryani մասին, իր արվեստի մասին և իր կյանքի հետ կապված ուրիշ մանրամասնությունների։ Շնորհակալ եմ։
Dear Mr. Saryan, Mr. Ambassador, dear guests, it is very exciting to be here and to present Martiros Saryan and Lazar Saryan. So, for first I want to say my thankful for Sipan because this is a certificate from our museum.
Well, thank you very much.
This is
very
you
kind.
who organized. And also I know that you are collecting
Stamps,
and
exactly.
this is with the face of Lazar Saryan.
Wow.
It was Jubilee, and
So
these
3
are
years
also
ago, in 2020,
envelopes.
as well. Stamped, fantastic. The best ever gift. Thank you very much.
So, and this is also the catalog of our museum. My
More
work
presents.
for many years.
So this is your own
Yes, this is the text
published.
and the catalog. It is my work, and also the CD with Lazar Saryan's music. I said Lazar Saryan because his name in Armenian is Lazaros, but as he participated at the World War II and the Russians were, for them it is difficult to say Armenian name, they call him in the Jewish version of his name, Lazar. So I called Lazar. And also this album of photos.
Lazar Saryan. And who is this little child?
This little child, that is me.
That's you.
Okay, this is for
Amazing.
you.
Thank you so much. Definitely, we will have a chance to view it with our choir members. And thank you for being here with us and presenting such a long-awaited lecture, which was planned literally a month ago. And by some circumstances, it took another month for us to have Sophia finally here in the United Kingdom. And of course, we were really pleased that House-Museum by Mrs. Sophia arranged sending the pictures, so they arrived during our first event, the concert and exhibition in Our Lady of Victory Church. And now, the second time, Lazar Saryan and Martiros Saryan here in London with your representation. Please, thank you so much. Thank you.
Our catalog and dear guests, for the first I want to remember that the cultural relationships between Armenians and British people starts at the mid of 18th century when the famous poet George Byron went to the Saint Lazar Island in Venice, and he visited their Armenian fathers, brothers of the order, Martiros, and he studied Armenian language, Armenian history, And soon, with the father Harut, they created the first English-Armenian grammar. And he said very brilliant words about Armenians, their characteristic. He said clarity, comfort, gentleness, unadulterated piety, talents, and piety of the brothers of the order can inspire secular men to believe that there is another better world even in this life. It will be difficult, perhaps, to find people's chronicles less tendered by crimes than the history of Armenians, whose pieties were peaceful. Vices are consequences of oppression. And I want to say that now we are following this relationship and starting to create some cultural events to bring the history of Armenian art of 20th century, and this is the development of the relationship that started in 18th century. So let's start. Now I will present you the earliest period of Saryan's art. He was born in 1880 in Russia, in Armenian community, with the center town Yerevan. Armenians lived there since the mid of 18th century, and they went there from the Crimea by the special degree of Empress Yekaterina II. And they created a town, villages, and of course the church, and developed this community very soon. So both L.Saryan's parents were Armenians. His father was a farmer, and this is a house where they lived by the river Sandek. This Saryan drew when he was 16 years old. Of course, even when he was learning at the school, he had the first steps in drawing, but after he finished the school, he started to draw more, and this is the windmill also created by his father. And fortunately, his elder brother Vovanes noticed his talent and helped him. He done the financial support, and he went to Moscow to receive professional education. This is the Saryan's family, mother and Martiros, brothers and sisters. His father passed away when he was 12 years old, and unfortunately we have no even photo, or Saryan didn't draw him. But this is the mother and his brothers and sisters. And this is his elder brother who helped him, and his first teacher, Armenian painter L.Saryan, who helped him to go to Moscow school. He prepared him for exams, and Saryan drew him. And this is already Saryan's mother's portrait that he created when he was the second-year student in Moscow. So we can see that he started in very classical academical style. The language of the painting was rather different. They not like too much colors, especially pure colors. And this is Saryan's cousin's portrait, Sandut. And Saryan came to Armenia when he was 20 years old. The first time it was 1902. And of course, this was the school which done him this language, this palette, and very soon he understood that that is not enough to express everything he saw, especially the bright sun. And he took, this is his first traveling to Armenia. He is on the ruins of the ancient capital Ani. This is medieval capital of Armenia. And of course Saryan know that this is the land of his ancestors. He especially visited this place. And of course he was very much impressed by the sun, and he took already the yellow color and put just on the wall of the houses, and everything around changed, the colors changed. And that is very important that after the main curriculum, he was specialized at the studio of L.Saryan and Konstantin, famous Russian painters, who appreciate his searchings, that he want to get right of the canons of academic art, and they encouraged him. And so very soon Saryan started to paint in his own way. These are his fellow students. And of course he studied in Armenia, Armenian miniatures, and this style, very special for it. It is fascinating, straightforwardness, typical for folk art. And you can see what he saw. This became the visual basis for the art that he created at this period. But of course he transformed it in his imagination, and he developed his art in the midst of symbolism. This is coming together with modernism. This was the old European movement in painting, and in England, for example, it is connected with the name of Aubrey Beardsley, who painted the graphic illustrations for Salome by famous English poet Oscar Wilde. And so Saryan, in his turn, give interesting paintings in this way, but connected with the Armenian miniatures. You can see this is a series of watercolors. He changed the technique and paint the watercolor. And it is interesting to compare with the colors, shapes of medieval art. And this is already the first drawing of Ararat Mountain, but again it is an Oriental fairy tale. And here also we can see Ararat on the back side, and ladies are taking some water from the source with peaches, these trees, these animal, birds, interesting images that he transformed in his imagination. This is walk in the evening, and also Saryan painted in tempera at this period. You can see the bright sun that he could express by colors, yellow colors typically. And this is the gorge of river Apuran. It is the real place in Armenia, nearby the ancient capital Ani. But for Saryan, it is again a dreamy world, because he started to dream even in his childhood. He was living at the open air. He connected, his consciousness connected with the nature and the images of the nature. And this is famous piece of this series of watercolors. It calls Love Fairy Tale. Nowadays, very often the people ask if these are two women, but of course not. Look at the body of this one. Of course, it is female features, and this one is a young man. And here we see some connections with the Persian culture also, and young men in Persia, they keep long hair. But why Saryan needed is very interesting to see that, in fact, they are identical in the body and the soul, and the bodies create the trunk of the tree, and the hairs are going down like the branches around, and this kiss, you can see the line of the kiss we can find in the nature. The heavens and the sea are kissing, and the sea and the earth are kissing. So this was Saryan's idea, that he said the nature reflected in the people, and the people reflected in the nature, and nature is eternal, and there is no death. This was his important idea. We can compare this Love and Kiss with the famous painting by Klingen. So you can see that they are also both creating the one and the same figure, shape, but here we can see how the man is very powerful and the lady is very pretty, but here they are the same. So Saryan, in his turn, developed the ideas of the all European art. He was very close to famous painters of this period, but at the same time, he was very original. And this is important exhibition in Moscow, where they exhibit the paintings of French artists like Van Gogh, Gauguin, Cézanne, and others, which were bought by the famous collectioner Shukin. And they organized an exhibition of French artists and also Russian young artists, and Saryan was among them. And of course, this cooperation started from this time, and it was rather difficult to keep originality. This is, for example, Van Gogh's painting. Look at his technique with short brush touches. Everything is alive around, and in the same technique, very close to him, Saryan created his work, but it is more dreamy work, connected with the nature. This one recently was exhibited at the exhibition in Moscow and also in Paris. You can see that Saryan also studied Armenian frescoes. They are very rare, but very interesting, and Saryan noticed the style. It became the basis of his style. And we can see that he created his own sphinx. It is the body of nature, but the head of woman, and there is an interesting image with one eye. This is the poet, philosopher, who show us the beauty of the world, and we can see how he developed his colors. This is also very... And this is the sketch for the self-portrait you see here also. And here we can see that Saryan already find himself in his motherland, and he is connected with the nature, with the colors. There are so many colors on his face, and these are, of course, the sunbeams, not only laying on his face, but also reflected from his soul. He himself is the sun. And even with his features, he is connected with Armenian nature. Look at his mustache, they are like mountains, and his ears look like these rocks around. And this is the second version of this self-portrait. It is in Moscow State, Tretyakov State, yeah. And we can again compare it with Van Gogh's self-portrait, because Van Gogh also liked very much to create a series of self-portraits. But Saryan is rather original, but developing the movement of the world painting. And these are also very interesting. We can see that he again rid of these short brush touches and developing more yellow and blue contrast. And this one also is very important painting, showing that Saryan was one of the colorists of the 20th century who like very simple shapes and pure colors. Saryan created a series of paintings in Constantinople. He expressed his studies there, and he noticed that there are so much dogs at the streets, and he painted them in very colorful. His paintings, he painted the streets of Constantinople, and also the market with fruits. And when he came back in Moscow, he had a great exhibition there. And already the famous museum Tretyakov Gallery bought his paintings. And he was a great pressure for the young painter. He was just 30 years old. And that means that this painting with pure colors, which was against the academic canons, are already started to be the museum art. And of course, Saryan continued his searchings, and he went also to Egypt in 1911. He was there. Of course, he was studying the culture of this great ancient country, and he took some same ideas. He saw that this great culture also believed the eternity, and he painted very interesting paintings. He showed the land of the sun, very contrast colors he done. And later he also traveled to Persia because he wanted to find some relations between these ancient cultures and also Armenian culture. Something happened with our paintings. It is impossible to speak about painting without showing, because the words cannot express the meaning of the painting, in fact. And Saryan never liked to speak about his paintings, but he had his memories very interesting, which helped us to understand his art, because it was very new. There are so much new ideas, but he was able to take very important basis from the ancient culture, especially of Oriental, Eastern culture, and develop it, transform it in his imagination, and it helps him also to create the new art of Armenia, because when he came to Armenia, it was already the Soviet period in 1921, and he had an aim to create a very tangible existence of Armenia, because it was after the terrible genocide of 1915. He wanted to show the world that Armenia exists, and Armenian painters creating as the old modern world. Speak about this one. It is very interesting, very symbolic. It is the creation of 1915, and this is the first reflection of Saryan's pain and his emotions when he heard of Armenian genocide. And we can see that these books, which must lay in this plate, they are spread all over. We can see here some shoes that maybe the people lost and went out. And Egyptian masks became alive. Their eyes became alive. Here we can find some fear and horror. Here also the tragedy, even tears. But this one, looking to us very confident, because this is the faith. And the features of this mask are very much look like the face of first Armenian king, Hyksos, who start his history from the period of Egypt, the same period, and his face we can find in the Louvre in Paris. And I think that Saryan think about these first Armenians. He showed in these paintings the history of the nation, because he believed that it is impossible to kill it in one day. And here he put on this vase the symbol of eternity, an element of Khachkars, and also he showed here by this jug the great period of ancient Armenian culture, the Urartu period, and this one also is the symbol of reborn, this leaf. It is also possible to see on Khachkars. So he used some elements of Christian art also, but the whole painting is very symbolic. He just take the composition of rock, and Armenian rocks are also very known in the world art, and he put everything like ornaments here, and everything is connected with the special idea of eternity. And he never painted the killed bodies, the blood, the terrible suffering, because he said that the art is a great power. It must call people to struggle, to live, to believe, and never depress them with terrible themes and subjects. And after creating this painting, Saryan closed his studio in Moscow and came to Yerevan, to Armenia, but in Echmiadzin, where the orphans were gathering all over the mother cathedral. And he saw again that these people are again suffering, dying, and it is impossible to help them very quickly. And he was on the verge of madness. His first friends get him to Georgia, Tiflis. And for a long time, Saryan didn't paint. It was a great depression for the artist, because this period he created every day, and we create so much paintings. but he couldn't even touch his brushes and colors. But soon other Armenians came also to Tiflis, and other painters, and Saryan organized the first union of Armenian artists. And he said we must show our culture or to overcome the tragedy in our soul. And soon he met his future wife, Lusik Aghayan. She was daughter of the famous Armenian writer, Lazar Saryan, and she was playing an Armenian instrument, saz, and the painter was in love at this period. He painted this very symbolic painting. This is the female body. It is in blossom, giving life to the new generation of Armenians. This is the shape of egg, yellow, and it contains flowers, the million of new lives. And this is the way to overcome the tragedy, to continue the life. And Saryan also believed that the art is a great power and it must help people. So this Aragat's painting was created in 1921, already Saryan into Armenian. And so you can see that his style is changing, and he never escaped to change his style, to try in some new ways. So, very quickly I will show you the paintings of the period of Constantinople. This is a sketch also. This is very famous strip in midday and sketch. And this is also, you can see very bright colors. Blue and yellow is always in contrast. He showed in yellow that's part which is under the sun, and blue is in shadow. These are famous dogs in Constantinople. This is also very beautiful Persian woman and the sketches. And this is already in Cairo. This one is very famous dead palm in Egypt. You can see that he showed the images. They all look like hieroglyphs because he used some elements of Egyptian art, but developed them in the style of new searchings of paintings, even in the style of Fauvism, which was brought by French artists. And this one, Lotus, is very beautiful. It seems that it is moving. We can feel it, that it is alive. And this one is Walking Woman, one of the masterpieces of our museum. Very interesting that he showed her in blue colors because she is in shadow, and we cannot see what she is carrying on her plate. But that must be fruits. In other paintings we can see, and we cannot see details. We see the whole shape that is triangle, and it is look like pyramid. She is coming from the deepness of the centuries and bringing the whole culture, whole history of the country, of this very important culture. And Saryan said the Egyptian people painted so simple, not because they cannot paint, but this was a beauty for them. Very simple shapes they used, and he take it from the ancient culture. And this is famous night in Egypt. Everything is in blue because there is no sun. And we can compare it with the painting by Matisse. because Saryan at this period was called Armenian Martiros. And these are also Egyptian women. And we can compare them with the Women of Tahiti by Gauguin. You can see what Saryan done in his originality. And this is Persian painting, again recreated in the style of Persian miniatures. And this is, for example, is the still life with the Egyptian masks, but their emotions are different that we see in this one. You can see their eyes giving natural emotions, and this already about these fruits, these eyes. This is the sign of eternity, the Jago-Urartian period, and this is the little symbol of rebirth.
Sorry, Sophia, will you go one back? Was it Yerevan or not?
No. I will show you Yerevan. Yes, you remember his portrait with vest? I will show you.
One of the masks looked like Yerevan.
Yes. Then this one. This one. And we now exhibit it in the Yerevan National Gallery. It is very ancient. We exhibit it together with Saryan's portrait because there is a great exhibition of Saryan's book illustrations. This is the mask, and we can see Saryan in his studio. This is the mask. He liked it very much. For him, it was also every ideas of eternity were connected with this. And here you can see the first Armenian king with whom it is possible to continue compare the features. This is the sign of eternity. Here on Khachkars we can see the lives that he used, leaves. And this is the painting which we see already here. This is the formula of the life. And also the flowers. Saryan liked very much to paint flowers in 1916 because this was the symbol of the life he is calling to be powerful. Okay, I will continue here. This is very interesting portrait of Saryan's wife, Lucy. And when their son, Lazar Saryan, whom music you already heard, and today also you will hear his music, he was a participant of the World War II, and he was the machine gunner, and he received a medal for that, for destroying the fascist plans. And he was also a musician. So I want to show you the animation of Saryan's painting under the music by his son Lazar Saryan. The donkeys are moving, and the music gives the rhythm of Oriental country. And this woman also. And the dogs are moving and barking and struggling. And the man is smoking his kalyan. are moving. This was the market in Persia, the most interesting place where you can see everything, because at the streets it is impossible to see the life of this country. Because everybody went to their garems and this very close country. These children are running, the buffalo is moving, and the camel is going to like this. This buffalo is the symbol of the Armenian nation, who is always trilling the earth. And for Saryan, who was the son of a farmer, this was also a very important symbol. And Saryan also created the sketches for Armenian flag. He used here the basic colors of the, as a painter, he chose these basic colors for Armenian flag. Of course, this is the flag of First Armenian Republic, created in 1919, but these colors are used also for the flag of today. And this is also the sketch for coat of arms of Soviet Armenia, and you can see that Saryan painted the Ararat mountain, and of course Turkish people was against it, but the Chechen from the Politburo of Moscow answered that you have a moon on your flag and it belongs to all the world, and this was important that Ararat became the symbol of Armenia thanks to Saryan and his brush. And this is Armenian land. Very important paintings that Saryan exhibited in 1924 in Italy at the Biennale exhibition in Venice. And after this success, the Armenian government decided to construct a house with studio for Saryan. And it was constructed in 1922. This is the basis of our House-Museum. Then the museum was built just next to this house and opened at Saryan's lifetime. And this is the portrait of L.Saryan, famous poet. He was repressed, and fortunately he died at the prison. And this mask is the symbol of his poetry, his soul. It will be always alive. And, in 1926, Saryan moved to Paris. He lived there for about 2 years, but he created Idan Sun sketches at the Marne River, Seine River, but he understood that this French theme was already developed by the French artists, and he needed to develop the Armenian theme. So even in Paris, he continued to paint Armenia. This is one of the paintings he created there. This is also, but unfortunately, the series of his paintings that he created in Paris were burnt on the boat on his way back to Armenia. And some of them survived. These two are in our museum. They were donated by famous collectioners. Don't want to cooperate with us. And this is his one-man show in Paris. It was very successful for the foreign artists in Paris. And these are two sons of Saryan. Sarkis, the elder one, was philologist, but unfortunately he passed away at his young period. He was just 45 years old, and he haven't a family. And this one is young son of Saryan. You know him, you heard his music here. And this is the family, also the mask. This is Saryan's wife and sons, his self-portrait. And this is old Yerevan. It started to construct in 1931. This is the construction of Opera House in Yerevan. And also the bridge. And this Saryan also painted himself with a mask. It was very difficult period because the Soviet power start to repress the artists because they want them to create only the illustration of community ideas, and for Saryan it was very difficult period. His portraits of famous architectures, and so why Saryan started to do book illustrations, but he never painted Soviet realism as they press him. Very beautiful illustrations for Armenian folk tales he done, and also some paintings that when he traveled to Turkmenistan, look at his painting on the Soviet theme, but it is not, the style was not Soviet realism. And so this is self-portrait. And so Saryan received this Grand Prix in 1937 when he created a great panel for the exhibition Arts and Techniques for the Soviet pavilion. This was the same exhibition where Picasso showed his Guernica, and this became a kind of shield for him that helps him to overcome this difficult period. And look how he created these themes of kolkhoz, again in his own style. And these are illustrations for the opera by Alexander Spendiarov. His name is also known for you. And it was shown at the stage of Bolshoi Theater in Moscow, and these are some designs for costumes. And Saryan received the state prize for these designs. And this is a portrait of Alexander Spendiarov. This is he himself, and always he used his brush and palette like sword and shield. This is famous academician, Joseph Vorvili. And this is famous composer Aram Khachaturian. I think Sipan will organize some concert of his music in the future also. And this is famous Komitas, also known for you. And at the period of World War, Saryan again never painted the battle skins, but he painted fruits. And so we were speaking about this painting. You can see that Saryan's wife holding an orange, but in the mirror there is a letter in her hand because they were waiting for news of their son. When he went to the war, for 4 months they had the news, and they don't know where he is, if he is alive or not. And but the whole palette tell us that this is the letter about life, and their son will come with victory. And the period is also here. You can notice that Saryan is rather young, but a year later he was an old man like this because he was suffered a lot for his son. But when he looked himself in the mirror to create his self-portrait, he saw that his face is old, but his power was the same as when he was young, middle-aged, and so on. He combined his stages of life, 3 stages of life. And after the war for the victory, Saryan painted these flowers because each of this bouquet is for each soldier who gave his life for the peace. And he continued to paint Armenian landscapes, and also this is Church Road in Ashtarak, and for a long time it is forbidden to paint churches, to go into the churches. They were closed, some of them were destroyed in the Soviet period, but he specially painted that the woman is going to enter because this faith is connected with the people. It is impossible to take it off. And some paintings of last period. This is portrait of Lazar Saryan. This is Alexander Harutyunyan, you know him and heard his music, Arnova Bajanyan. And this is the portrait of Saryan's granddaughter, the Erdogan Catherine. And again, you can see the mask because he painted this in the memory of his wife's portrait, which was burned with the other paintings in Paris. And this is famous composer Dmitry Shostakovich. He was teacher of Lazar Saryan. And this is portrait of American writer John Steinbeck. You can see how Saryan painted him. And this is the meeting with Britain in 1965, famous British composer. And Saryan donated him his work, Sunny Day. It is now in the Museum of Britain and Pierce in Red House in Auburn. And this is panel Armenia. Saryan combined and embraced all Armenia in one painting, and he painted here Ararat Mountain, the gorges of Garni, the Symphony of Stone. He gave the ancient time, the camels, he remembered the Silk Road, and this is the period when Armenians came back to their historical motherland, and this is the future. It must be sunny, and you can see that Saryan always developed his technique, his style, and when he was 89 years old, he created the earth. This is the motherland of mankind. He wanted to see peaceful, and this one is the last oil painting he created when he was 91 years old, and a year later he died. The last year he created only drawings. Here you can see his profile. Maybe he didn't see himself. He was thinking that this is the time to pass away. He painted himself in the space, in the cosmos, but his soul is always alive, like a sun. And here is a dog, which is also always at his studio, his friend, and he passed away together with him. But this is the eternal circle of the life. This is, Saryan believed it always. And this is one of his drawings, 3 trees, and he wrote here, Katya, me, and Lucy. Katya was his sister, he himself, and Lucy his wife. 3 trees and 3 old people. And his last self-portrait. Sometimes the people compare it with Leonardo's self-portraits, but here on his forehead you can see a deep wrinkle in the shape of Ararat Mountain. Wow. And this is at least a photo. This is my mother, my sister, and me, little baby. I am the youngest granddaughter of Saryan.
He hasn't painted you.
No, because
Do you have any questions about Martiros Saryan to ask to our guests? Because this is a rare chance we can talk and maybe find some answers to any questions you think you have.
Can I ask a question?
yes, please.
When was the Saryan Exhibition Museum established and opened in Yerevan?
It was 1967, and the painter was alive. And he himself took part in the organization of the exhibition, and his last 5 years he lived in his house-museum. Yes, please.
Was it easy for you to travel outside Soviet Union?
No, you know, this traveling to Paris, 1928, this was the last traveling to the Europe, because the Soviets forbid Saryan to travel, because they need that the painter will go and give the ideas of their country. But he went there and brought some bourgeoisie influence of French impression. And for that time it was forbidden. Sorry?
Did he travel alone or with the family?
He traveled alone. Of course, he wanted to organize the travel of his wife, but it wasn't possible. Time was difficult.
Did he know Picasso? In
Of
real
course,
life?
he know his art, but he never met him.
He didn't.
Yes.
Can we have brief view of photos for Lazar Saryan and few important key things about his creation?
So this is Lazar Saryan, and he always feels that he is a part of great family, but he himself was very modest. He was the participant of the war. He was the president of Yerevan Conservatory, but he was a very modest man.
I want to tell something regarding to his music. I couldn't believe that after coming back from the Second World War, he created Serenade Symphonic Pictures. Such a great man with such a love and brightness inside his head and soul.
Because this is the power of soul. In his letters to his father, he wrote that he is standing there at the front and destroying French fascist plans that want to close the sun that Saryan likes so much. And he said, whatever happens, do not distinguish the sun in your soul. This was the great power of Saryan, the father and the son also. And when one of the journalists asked Lazar Saryan if it is true that you have very ideal relationship with your father, he said yes. Of course, it is known that the fathers and sons always have some problems of generation, but we have no, because we both were creations, were connected with art, and for me, the father was always unfathomable, sage and sapient, and I always teach of him. And this is Lazar Saryan's grandfather, famous Armenian writer, Martiros Saryan. This is he in his childhood, and here we can see three composers, Saryan, Babajanyan, and Lazar Saryan. They start to be friends from their childhood. They studied together at the school under the Yerevan Conservatory, and here we can see the same composers when they are old. They are all 60 years old here. And these are 5 Armenian composers, mighty handful they call. This is Mirzoyan, Adam Khudoyan, Arno Babajanyan, Lazar Saryan, and Alexander Harutyyan. And this is soldier Lazar Saryan. He was very young, just 22 years old when he went to the war. And he was also playing accordion. And for that he received the Red Star. So as a machine gunner he received the medal, but for the music he received more higher prize. And this is Saryan's teacher, Dmitry Shostakovich, famous Russian composer. And this is also Alexandrov. This is the class of orchestration. And this is Aram Khachaturian, who comes to Yerevan, and our composers are at the backside. And this, they are discussing something with
music.
I'm excited. And these are also Armenian composers with Aram Khachaturian and Saryan as the president of Yerevan Conservatory. He had very interesting and original management. He created so much classes in Yerevan Conservatory for all the musical instruments of big symphonic orchestra, because he was a composer and he knew that which instruments the orchestra need to have a very powerful sound. So, and this is exhibition of Martiros Saryan's paintings in Darmstadt. It was in 1986, and Lazar Saryan specially wrote the music for Quartetto, and he also show and explain Saryan's paintings. Because at the same time he was the first director of House-Museum, because at that time somebody must take this important work. Thank you.
Dear Sophia, thank you very much for such an interesting lecture, presentation, both your grandfather, legendary painter Martiros Saryan, and just an amazing and fantastic composer, Lazar Saryan, and we are really happy to have you here today to hear all the stories about them, to see the photography. I want to mention I was really happy to have this photo slide, because last year we had a lecture about Babajan and I couldn't find that many pictures together, all these composers. Why I want to mention about this? We all have to understand only unity can bring such a great reason, like we had during even difficult Soviet Union times. These composers understood, like, instead of disturbing each other, putting banners or, I don't know, borders in between each other, they started to collaborate, and in fact each of them created amazing, huge pieces. So thank you for that, and we from our organization as well as from St. Sarkis Parish want to give you a small gift from British Museum. Thank you very much.